All right, let's talk about the digital world. It is built on a mountain of information, but how is any of it actually organized? Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and really get into the two brilliant and kind of competing philosophies that bring some order to all that digital chaos. I mean, think about it. Every single day, we unleash this tidal wave of data. We're talking quintillions of bytes of photos, messages, videos, you name it. It's an absolute digital storm. So the big question is, how on earth do you find one specific drop of water in that massive, massive ocean? Well, the answer isn't some single magic bullet. Instead, we figured out two fundamentally different ways of thinking about data. You can almost think of them as two opposing philosophies, each one with its own unique way of taming that information beast. So on one side, you've got what we'll call the meticulous librarian. This one's obsessed with order, with rules, with making sure every single thing is in its perfect place. And on the other side, we've got the creative treasure hunter who just thrives in chaos, sifting through a big jumble of stuff to find these priceless gems. These two characters, they're going to be our guides today. First up, let's step into the domain of our meticulous librarian, the world of structured data. This is where everything is neat, tidy, and totally predictable. So what is structured data, really? It's any information that fits perfectly into a predefined model. Now, those two words are the key here, predefined model. It means we decide on the organization before we ever add the data. It's like designing a whole filing system before you even think about putting a single piece of paper in it. And the most famous home for this kind of data is the relational database. The absolute best way to picture it is as a massive, perfectly organized digital filing cabinet. Every piece of info has a specific drawer, a specific folder, and a specific label. No mess allowed, period. And here's a perfect example of what that looks like. We've got a simple table for customers. You can see each column is a specific category. We call it a field, like name or city. And then each row is a complete record for one person. It's clean, it's efficient, and because of this perfect structure, it's incredibly easy to search. Okay, but here's where things get really clever. This is where the meticulous librarian really shines. What happens if information about one customer is spread across multiple filing cabinets? How do you link it all together? So let's say you've got your customers table, but you also have an orders table somewhere else. How does the database know which orders belong to which customer? You can't just rely on a name, right? I mean, there could be two different people named John Smith. The solution is something called a primary key. Just think of it like a unique serial number or an employee ID that gets assigned to every single record. No two customers can have the same customer ID. It's a guaranteed, one-of-a-kind identifier. So how do we connect the tables? Well, that orders table will also have a column for the customer ID. We call this a foreign key, and it's basically a pointer that says, hey, you see this order? It belongs to the customer with this exact primary key over in the customers table. It's the magic bridge that connects our filing cabinets. Now, this whole system is held together by rules, and we call them constraints. These are the strict filing rules our librarian enforces, making sure there's never any confusion. And the number one most important rule of all, the primary key must always be unique. Of course, all this power comes with a trade-off. This rigidity can make the system pretty tough to change once it's all set up. Okay, enough of the quiet library. Let's step into the exciting, kind of messy world of our treasure hunter, unstructured data. So unstructured data is pretty much everything that structured data is not. It has no predefined model, it's just information in its raw, native format. Stuff that doesn't fit neatly into the rows and columns of a spreadsheet. You could call it the wild, untamed frontier of information. So what are we really talking about here? We're talking about most of the data in the world, actually. The video you just watched, all the emails in your inbox, Word documents, photos, it's all incredibly valuable, but it is all wonderfully messy. You can't just tell an email to fit into a neat name and city column. The important stuff is buried deep inside the text itself. Yeah, you can't just shove a whole video file into a tiny cell in a spreadsheet, right? This kind of data needs a different kind of storage, a treasure chest instead of a filing cabinet. These are called non-relational databases, and they are built for this kind of flexibility. So how does our treasure hunter find anything in there? Well, instead of a rigid card catalog, they use powerful search tools that create indexes, kind of like the index in the back of a book, to quickly find keywords or concepts within all that chaos. So, we have the meticulous librarian and the creative treasure hunter, the filing cabinet and the treasure chest. How in the world do you know which one you actually need? Well, it all comes down to picking the right tool for the job. If you absolutely need consistency and you have clearly defined relationships, think financial records, you want the librarian's structured approach. Its big weakness, though, is its rigidity. But if you need flexibility, if you need to handle all sorts of different data and scale up massively, then you need the treasure hunter's unstructured approach. The challenge there? Well, making sense of the mess can be a lot more complex.
All right, time for a quick check-in. One of the really popular treasure chests for unstructured data is something called a key value store. Looking at these options, which one do you think best describes how that works?
And if you chose D, you nailed it. A key value store is just beautiful in its simplicity. You have a unique key, like a word, and you just associate it with a value, which could be anything, a paragraph of text, an image, you name it. It makes it incredibly fast for looking things up, which is exactly what a treasure hunter needs.
So here's the real takeaway. This is not a battle between order and chaos. It is not the librarian versus the treasure hunter. The modern digital world absolutely depends on both of them. We need the rigid structure of relational databases for some tasks, and we need the creative flexibility of non-relational ones for others. They're two sides of the very same coin.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. As artificial intelligence gets better and better at making sense of all this messy, unstructured human data, our videos, our language, which approach do you think will become more important? Is the future going to be built on perfect order, or is it going to be found within that creative chaos?